Hi ragazzi, ciao guys. How are you doing today? Today's a beautiful sunny day. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm a bit more formal, I'm a bit more dressed up because the topic of today's video is very important. Today we're gonna talk about inspiration and what motivates me and like who I look up to and different ways that we can really keep our outfit inspired and everything can comes easier and how overall we can achieve that. So let's have a cup of coffee together. We're gonna talk about this beautiful overshirt that I have on and maybe that's the secret reason of the video. So yeah, formal Jenny is here. Let's have a coffee and let's get into it. So first thing first, let's start with the priorities. I would like to start with an outfit check. Today I'm wearing my latest vintage find, which is this beautiful Massimo Osti production overshirt from 1997. Massimo Osti production is this obscure line that Massimo Osti worked at after leaving CP Company in Stone Island from 1995, and he continued his legacy with a couple of brands. You have left hand, you have Massimo Osti. I was able to grab this deal and I really like this kind of late 90s, early 2000s biker style jacket. Is a very nice lighter nylon jacket, and I matched it with a white Uniqlo t-shirt and green CP Company batik pants. So that's the vibe. It's really preppy, more than normal, but I really needed to flex this overshirt that I just got in, and that's the purpose of the video. We're talking inspiration. We're talking way of keep having interest in your outfits and improving it and taking steps. Back in the days, let's say up until 5 years ago, I would have told you, hey, just look at social media. You know, you can just follow your friends, follow page you like, and you're gonna get inspired. Nowadays, unfortunately, with the evolution of the whole platform, it's a bit harder. And it's easy to get lost in the sauce and just see some commercial options, something that's really not authentic. And yeah, I would like to focus on authenticity, absolutely, and being inspired. My first advice, my first tip would be to get inspired by paper sources. That can be a magazine that you find in a barbershop, that can be a magazine you find at work. You can get free magazine, I told you about it in this video, and magazines are great gifts. You can get like very cheap ones for like 5, 10, 15 euros. They can be more branded, like for example the one that Cara Working Project is pushing. You can have one like Archipelago, for example, so more brand related or more product related. Of course that also works, and it's overall a bit of an old school way to keep yourself interested, know more about brands, know more about clothing. A cheap way is a cheap alternative, and I actually like to collect. It's also a very nice element of interior design, so I would recommend everyone, and that's also what I'm trying to do most in 2024, is to keep on reading. Again, doesn't have to be intellectual, doesn't have to be too deep. I would absolutely recommend to keep an eye open for like paper sources magazine. Monthly, can be yearly. Have like some kind of more, they're like towards catalogs. For example, I have here All Gone that I love, or can be, for example, an archival book. So yeah, if you're into watches, accessories, it's a great gift. You can tell people to give that to you. You can buy them yourself. You find them on sale online for very cheap, and I think it's an overall great of being inspired while doing something different from the rest. Absolutely. My second tip would be to always get inspired by your surroundings. So go out, have a coffee, take a walk, and try to have a sensitivity for who around you has something on that you might like. Just see what are they doing. Why did you like their outfit? Is it because it was bold? Is it because it had interesting material? Was it the textures? And I think that's an exercise I like to play. Of course, in some cases you can be luckier. Maybe you work a place where people are very nicely dressed, and so it's easier for you to be exposed to positive influences. Maybe instead you work more of a corporate job, so that's harder. I absolutely get that. In that case, just again, take a walk, go in a place. You can find inspiration anywhere. People looking, that's also incredibly helpful. For example, the other day I was here at the bus stop outside of my house. So this guy had like a beautiful long dark gray trench coat. It really inspired me to, you know, like just looking into it and making sure that again I can further develop and just put it in my wish list and just keep it in mind. So I absolutely do that. You don't need to have cool, edgy friends. You don't need to have friends at all. I don't. But like, you don't need to have cool friends. Like, so don't be discouraged. Just go around, take a look at who's cool, what are they doing. Is it like maybe a cropper top that you kind of would like to incorporate in your outfit? Why not? So tip number 2, go outside, look at people, get inspired. It's very easy. You don't have to engage. It's very chill. But you can really find some like, you know, like some accessories. For example, somebody's rocking some trends. You can have people who are still dressing like 30 years ago. They are trend resistant, and that's great. So that's the second tip. The third tip I would do is to do some research. What I mean by research is that sometimes sometimes you hear something, right? Can be a friend talking about brand, can be an influencer on YouTube who thinks to be cool, can be anything, or in the news, or maybe somebody tells you on LinkedIn, anywhere. You just hear of a brand, you just hear of a person, you just hear of a style. It can be, like something niche, like a new avant-garde, or something more mainstream, like silent luxury. What I would recommend is to go for a little bit of a research. That can be, of course, with hashtag, can be on TikTok if you're very young, not like me. It can be anything, but I would recommend you just look a little bit more into it. Maybe even on social media you can find like, an announcement. A brand has been introduced, Dries Van Noten left Dries Van Noten. And I would use that as a corner, as a point to be like, hey, why don't I look into the brand? For example, I was very ignorant of Dries Van Noten. I just knew, of course, his role, but I had zero idea about the guy. The stylist and founder of the brand, he just left the company. He's gonna leave the company now in May and June. And it was a great excuse for me to just look into the guy, go on Wikipedia, go on Instagram, research. And I think that's a great idea. Use those little tips. Again, doesn't have to be you reading business or fashion, but like a friend brings up a brand. Is it Montbell, for example? Is a Japanese streetwear brand that you hear from your barber. So overall, I would say try to be on the lookout for outside inputs that can help you and do a research. I'm gonna make you another example that regards my personal life. For example, this shirt is from Massimo Osti production. How did I stumble upon this brand? I was on Instagram a couple of months ago and I saw the CP company and the Massimo Osti studio, like the archive, they have an archive in Bologna that I went visiting, announced that they were gonna reintroduce this brand, Massimo Osti production. So for me, it was just an input, was just a tip to just, go research and then do my research. I put myself into the newsletter. I was really interested in this brand. Of course, then they started releasing from February. The new version of Massimo Osti production, Massimo Osti studio, is incredibly expensive. I think that a jacket retailed for around 700, 800, 900 euros. But this was a great information for me to research more, have a bit more knowledge, and also, for example, find a steal on Vinted and be able to incorporate that, have a tip, and maybe have something that's a bit more preppy, more biker-like into my wardrobe. So again, be on the lookout for tips. If you hear something, just write it down, look for it. It can be foldable or pantoffles, anything. I think that's a great advice. Yeah. The third advice for inspiration would be to consume some kind of audio media that inspires you. For example, like a fashion podcast, can be a podcast about fashion news or style or interviews. In this case, I have two recommendations for you. One is Throw and Fits, the only podcast that matters. Two great guys from New York. They're like super funny, super banter. They're talking about fashion in a not traditional way. Very funny. They have big guests. They interviewed Lorenzo Osti. They interviewed the guys behind Percival. Super fun. Is more like of a comedy / interview podcast. But it was great. For example, I learned more about Amine and his personal style. He collabed with New Balance, just to give you an example. Or a bit more serious podcast is style Zeitgeist. They're really good at like reviewing and talking about high fashion. This is just two examples of like, okay, let's say you're on a bike ride, you're on a bus ride, you're traveling. Other former podcasts are a bit more popular. So if you're talking about self-improvement, business, but I just wanted to point out that again, to keep yourself inspired, you can also go in this direction. And I'm actually really into this kind of consumption goods, and that can give you inspiration. For example, they were talking about Body, they were talking about the brands for the t-shirt of the bear, and that's a non-visual way to consume a meme that's not saturated, that's not full of ads, that's not meant to sell as much as, of course, like a visual media that like a post or a Google research. So fourth tip, go for audio media, go for podcasts, can be episodes, and that's absolutely mega solid. Yeah, that's the fourth tip. Fifth and last tip, which is your biggest inspiration is yourself. Okay, this sounds corny as hell. What Prep Eugenio means is sometimes, even if you don't know, even if you feel bored, you come up with some nice choices. Can be a matching black and blue, can be a nice pair of socks, can be how like a pant folds on a shoe. So even if you don't realize, maybe not intentionally, you're doing cool stuff. So my recommendation would be, one, when you see that there's something cooking, there's some sauce on the fire, something that you've done works, can be, combining leather boot with like a cargo boot, or going instead for a skinny, or anything like that. In that case, I would recommend you to write it down, take a picture, have a gallery archive of outfits that you like. It doesn't have to be too serious, don't take yourself too seriously. But I think it's great because you will be able to have an original source of inspiration that's close to you, and that's basically yourself. I like how this color goes with my face, perfect. I'm just gonna take a little note, I'm just gonna take a picture of me and be like, I'm gonna keep in mind the fact that black and navy works together, or that's I'm tired of leather shoes or anything. And then step by step, of course, is not nothing revolutionary, but that's gonna help you also. And I think that's something that people don't look enough into. And you know, you're always looking out for celebrities, for influencers, but you shouldn't do that. Just look at yourself, and you will see that sometimes you came out with cool fits, and sometimes it was mistakes. So just take notes of both and be like, okay, red doesn't work for me, why am I still wearing red, or anything like that, you know, or like double bags, or the size of your shopper. Guys, that was it. 5 incredible useful tips, or are they? It's good to have you. I hope you're getting some good info from this. Let me know in the comments what's your tip instead, what's your go-to routine when you're like, you know, maybe lacking a bit of inspiration, or you would love to take it to the next step and say, okay, for the new year, new month, new season, I want to get inspired. Don't forget to click like, follow me on YouTube, of course, that's amazing. Follow me on Vinted at Charles Paris. That's also where the steals and the good stuff is. Hopefully the day and the weekend is gonna continue beautifully. Stay safe out there. Have a beautiful day. Love you. Bye.